Welcome to Conversations on the Coast, the Bay Area's premier author interview program. And an author I really like is returning today to visit. His name is David Shannon, and he's going to rush the seasons a little bit because he's here to talk about his latest book. And the title of that book is It's Christmas, David. It's a Blue Sky Press book published by our friends at Scholastic. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, Jim. It's good to be here.
You are a seasoned rusher. You know,
Yes.
You're worse than big advertisers. They haven't even started their Christmas stuff yet on my TV.
For Halloween, I'm going to be Santa Claus.
Of course. Now, this business with David, which I call a franchise. I mean, if we were in flicks, this would be a franchise.
Right.
All the David things that you've done. It began with simply No David, a Caldecott honor book, followed by David Gets in Trouble, very logical sequel. And then another logical step in the boy's life, David goes to school.
Right.
And now school is out, and David is celebrating Christmas, or trying to.
Mm-hmm.
And David has, or No David has a backstory.
Yeah,
that's what we say in flicks.
Right. You're very movie-oriented.
Yeah, well, that's
very
it.
Cinematic.
I probably won't be in the next segment.
Yeah, the idea for the No David books comes from a book I made when I was a 5-year-old, which was also called No David, and it was about 8 pages long. I drew a bunch of pictures of me doing things I wasn't supposed to do, and the only words in the whole book were No and David, because that's all I knew how to spell.
That's the words you knew.
It was various combinations.
Yesterday in one of the stores we visited, we saw a very almost strange book of backstories, I guess.
The guys read.
Yeah.
Yeah, that John Sheska put together.
Yeah. And the David illustration there, which is supposedly from when you were a 5-year-old.
Right.
I think it shows you wanting to be taller.
Well, I mean, it's just like in the more current No David books, David is up on a chair going after sweet treats. Yes, in the original he was going after cookie dough because his mom was making cookies, and back then that was the only way you could get cookie dough. Cookie dough ice cream hadn't been invented yet. I tell that to kids, and they just their mouths drop open. It's their version of the Great Depression, I think.
Well, David, in a sense, got you rolling. David in trouble, and David goes to school. As I say, logical development, and so the franchise grows and prospers, but at the same time you're doing lots of other stuff.
Oh yeah, I do. I write some of my own books, and I also illustrate other people's books. That's how I got started, was as an illustrator.
One of my favorite books that you've been involved with, I think as author as well as the person doing the illustrations, is Too Many Toys.
Mm-hmm.
It's a book that I wish American children would take to heart. But they don't.
Well, it's a book about the drama and the negotiation that goes on when a parent tries to reduce the number of toys in the house, which is pretty much happening all across America. I mean, you get toys for everything now.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. As you mentioned in that book, and in fact, it's a political issue here, of course, in San Francisco. You go get a Happy Meal and you get a toy, and we're arguing here in the Board of Soups about whether that's an okay thing for children.
Well, I mean, you also get toys on your birthday like normal, but you also get toys when you go to other people's birthday parties.
Yeah, that's right.
And so many of those toys, too, they aren't meant to last for any amount of time as an actual plaything. They're just like, here, have a toy. Thanks for coming.
Go home and,
Yeah.
and break it. Get
Yeah,
it
have
out
a
of my
toy.
house. Now, one of the other things that you've done in your writing, I think, since I followed it somewhat closely, is that you've found ways to keep political peace at home by involving family members in your books.
Well, I think it's more like I would have suffered writer's block for the last 5 or 10 years without my family doing funny things. So one book, Alice the Fairy, is based on my daughter.
Yeah.
And then I did a book about my dog.
Good boy, Fergus.
Good boy, Fergus. And, of course, he is almost impossible to live with now that book has come out. He thinks he's a movie star.
Well, not only that, he insists on being somewhere in every subsequent book.
That's right. All my I put Fergus somewhere in all my books so that he doesn't start moping around the house.
Well, all these books that we've been talking about are fine and fun, but now it's time to look at the new one. It's Christmas, David. It's Christmas, David, by the great David Shannon. That's the book today. Blue Sky Press publication it is. And the overall publisher there is Scholastic Incorporated. And our friends at Kirkus have gotten around to talking about it, although it's just been released. And they say, in part, Shannon's irresistible illustrations show David's emotions careening from hope to anticipation to sadness to joy, with a masterful use of perspective, keeping the reader on the same emotional level with the little boy. The touching final page shows David clutching his new fire truck and a note from Santa with Mom's protective arm around him as always.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's the aw factor.
If it's a David book, you'll have the arm, at the end, if nowhere else.
Yep.
Other places, it's more likely to be the back of her hand. All right, let's dive into It's Christmas, David. At first glance, it seems to me Christmas seems a strange place to put the master of no, but you don't.
No, I've actually been kicking this idea around for quite a while because it seems to me that the time of year that I got told no the most was at Christmas. I mean, it's this perfect
Christmas?
Yeah.
What kind of parents did you have?
Listen, it's a perfect mixture of temptations, all the cooking and the cookies and the sweets and the presents and stuff, and then also Mom and Dad are a little bit on edge around Christmas time.
I'll say.
With
yes.
the relatives coming and the house needing to be cleaned and the shopping to be done, and there's still work. And so I think those two factors, plus all the anticipation of Christmas. I mean, just trying to go to sleep on Christmas Eve and all the excitement. So I think those factors all combined.
Well, yeah, given that as the overall scene, one could well see in the book a spread with 2 words on it: no peeking.
Yeah, well, that's how the book starts.
Yeah, no peeking.
Yeah, David's up on a little tower of furniture, and he's found a few boxes. But something else that I think is interesting too is I always refer back to that original book from when I was a little kid, and one of the original pictures that I drew is of me getting mixed up with the ornaments, playing with the ornaments.
Oh, wow.
So, that's kind of from the word go, Christmas was involved.
Well, the other thing is, you have a spread here, and the word you have, you're so economical when it comes to words. Makes it easy reading. Those are not toys.
That's right. And I ask kids, what are they? And they'd say, they're ornaments. And
kids understand that distinction.
I say, what's the difference between toys and ornaments? Well, toys don't break into 1,000 pieces.
Well, it's not just looking for possible presents that gets David into possible difficulty. It's also snitching.
snitching cookies.
This is not snitching in the sense of lying on your friend.
Right. No, this is snitching cookies that his mom is making, probably for his class Christmas party or for his cousins. And
Company comes.
And he wants one now.
Typical Dave. Now, the other thing that's to be noted is that in the no snitching illustration, it's a perfect example of David trying to do a simple grab on a cookie, and if he slips and falls back, he's going to knock over flour, eggs, and God knows what all else on the floor.
Well, in most of the illustrations, I try to, I show David doing something he's not supposed to, but I also try to imply that a disaster is about to happen. So, yeah, right around his elbow are a bunch of eggs and a bunch of flour and a big bowl, and so, kids can kind of see what's coming.
This franchise, this David franchise, also has what we in the biz would call a set piece. Seems to happen all the time. Something about a famous scene of David running down the street.
Oh, yeah, well.
Huh?
Well, in No David, there's a scene where he's running down the sidewalk without any clothes on.
Right.
And his mother is yelling, "Come back here, David!" And through the years, that has emerged as by far the favorite piece.
Yes, so
with the kids.
It returns here.
So here it returns, because I was riffing on Christmas and snow and winter, and so this time we have David running down the street in the middle of winter with nothing but boots and a scarf and mittens.
And Santa's watching David.
Santa is watching David. Mm-hmm.
Now, this particular set piece, if you'll forgive me, has its roots in your larger family reality.
Right, yeah, that was something, a lot of kids asked me if I did all the things David did. Well, I did some of them, but in this case, it was something my nephew did. And this new piece where he's in the snow is actually more accurate because he lived in Alaska at the time. So I had to break out the pink paint for that one.
And are they still hanging in Alaska?
Well, no, now he lives in Florida.
Well, that's good. It
makes sense.
Yeah, it can make for another set piece when you do the next David book.
That's right.
And it's kind of a tropical atmosphere.
Yeah.
And, I'll leave the rest to their imagination. So I'm so glad for the set piece. I really, really am. In its Christmas David, we find out that even the most positive things about Christmas can sometimes take a negative turn. You don't want to miss it. It is Jim Foster, and I'm just having a lot of fun talking to an old friend, David Shannon, whose latest book is called It's Christmas, David. It's a Blue Sky Press book published by Scholastic. And I meant to get into this in the last segment, and I forgot. You just haven't all your life been writing books, although you once said in a public forum that you sometimes considered yourself one of the luckiest people in the world because you're doing now exactly what you liked to do when you were a kid. Right. Draw pictures of baseball players and soldiers.
Yeah, I'm even drawing the same things.
But there was a time that you were involved with major media like Time, New York Times. Mm-hmm. What was that?
Yeah, when I went to art school at Art Center in Pasadena, and then moved to New York, and I was doing editorial illustration, kind of serious socio-political subject matter.
Uh-huh.
And then I kind of got into children's books by accident. And, well, it was either accident or destiny, Jim.
Oh, I think it's much better. Destiny.
Destiny.
Yeah, who cares, accident? Come on.
I think maybe I just went in search of a more mature audience. 5-year-olds.
Yeah. Well, I want to get back to the book. And it seems to me that there are things about the approach of Christmas that should be plain and simple fun. But David's right. It doesn't always, turn out to be simple fun. For example, David goes to see Santa, I would guess at a department store,
Right.
and there's this picture of poor David at the end of the longest line you've ever seen, with his head hanging to one side, trying to get a glimpse of Santa Claus, and the caption is, "Be patient."
Yeah, and he's kind of pulling on his mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Christmas involves a lot of patience. Just waiting for Christmas itself is pretty difficult. But there's also all the lines and all the shopping and
Yeah.
a lot of things having to go with mom to do a lot of things that aren't all that fun. And, of course, the line to see Santa, it always at least looks that long, whether it is
yes,
or not.
yes, that's well represented. Yes, yes. Now you finally get there, and Santa pulls you up on his lap.
Right,
You have your list ready,
right.
rather long,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah, David spent considerable time on his
he's
Christmas
worked on
list.
it. Yes. And it says here, "Hurry up!"
Yeah, right. Right. It's been patient.
What do you mean, hurry up?
It's been be patient for the last hour, and now it's hurry up.
Now, there were some interesting things on this on this list. It says number 25, big dog.
Big dog.
Circus isn't good enough for this kid.
Well, there's nothing like a big dog. I like the Ferrari.
Ferraris.
Yeah,
Yes,
he
there's a
wants a
Ferrari
Ferrari.
on there.
Yep.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a license yet.
Nope.
I don't assume. I don't know. Well, but other things are going on. It's Christmas time, and in the rest of the world, not here in California, but in the rest of the world, it does something called snow.
Yes, it does.
And boys especially get out in the snow, and what do they get into?
Well, they get into snowball fights,
Yeah.
and occasionally they like to leave their mark in the snow. Usually in the form of writing their names.
Writing their names.
Yes, it's an age-old
With
activity.
with a liquid.
Yes.
Yes, with a liquid.
Not necessarily ink.
Not necessarily ink.
And of course, the goal is to be able to completely finish your name before you run out of the liquid.
Yeah. And so David is nicely situated with his name,
Yes.
in contradistinction to his friend Alexander.
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
it's no good being Jeremiah or Alexander.
Yeah, that's hard. Mm-hmm. That's hard. Now, when the snowball fight takes place, a window, of course, gets broken.
Right.
Has to happen.
Right.
Has to happen. And you suggest, when you gloss on this spread, that it would probably be David's lot to be the one left there and claim to be guilty.
That's just the kind of luck he has. I mean, all of his friends are involved in the snowball fight, but it's his snowball that hits the window and breaks it. So, they all yell, "Run!" And poor David is left there to take all the blame himself.
Yeah. No wonder his mother is, upset with him.
Well, yeah.
She is.
The problem with being David's mother is that she has to be upset at the same time that I think she's amused, too. That's difficult.
Well, one of the worst things that you talk about in this book, in my opinion, because I can remember this, is that one of the things that happens at Christmas time is that you have formal dinners.
Yes.
And that means, for example, as David does here, you have to have a shirt, you have to have a bow tie, you have a suit jacket on, and a knife and a fork.
Your hair is combed, slicked back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything is wonderful. And then there are rules.
Yeah, that was the part that got me. Was it seemed like when my relatives came for dinner, they brought this invisible secret rule book that with all these new rules that I never got to see it. I never knew about these rules until I broke them and got in all this trouble.
And every time you broke them, your mother would say,
She'd say, "He knows better than that." And of course, this is the first I'd heard about it.
That is very real. That is very, very real. So then David wants to open a present early, and it's a no, and finally it's the night before Christmas, and he's supposed to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Has a heck of a lot of trouble falling asleep, and he has a horrible dream.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
He dreams that he goes downstairs on Christmas, and all that's there is a lump of coal that Santa has brought, because that's sort of a subplot through this book, is the whole idea of if you get on Santa's naughty list, you're going to get a lump of coal. Yeah.
Well, at the very end, we find out. Well, we find out. What do we find out? That David's on the naughty list or the not naughty list? You will just have to buy the book to find out. And the book is called It's Christmas, David. The author with whom we have been talking is David Shannon. The publisher is Scholastic. This has been Conversations on the Coast, and I'm Jim Foster.